Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're talking college football. We will be presenting our top 25 for week 12. We're going to take a look at the teams that fell out of last week's top 25. We're also going to look at some teams that are looking to get in next week's top 25. We've also had some news on the landscape. A couple coaches are out. We had a significant injury Saturday night. We're going to talk about that. But hope you'll join us. Let's get on to the goings-on. We had two teams that fell out of last week's top 25, and those were North Carolina, who was 22nd, and USC, who was 25th. Now, North Carolina went to Clemson, and folks, Clemson is a team that when they got it going, man, they're tough. They are really tough at home, and North Carolina found that out. I don't think they led at all during the ball game, and Clemson really flexed some muscle there. So Clemson appears to be at least trying to make it back in the direction of being a top-notch performer, and they really gave it to North Carolina. And then Southern Cal in the uniform game. What a beautiful setting and sight that was against UCLA, the Bruins, there in Los Angeles. But the Bruins were way too much for the Trojans. UCLA can play some D, and they stuck it to Southern Cal. Southern Cal could not put up the points they needed, and of course they can't stop anybody. I don't know why. They've got some great players on that defense. Mason Cobb and Bear Alexander are just a pair of them, but they can't stop anybody. But they can score. They're decent. I just wonder what's actually going on over there at Southern Cal. It doesn't look fluid, if you will, to me. But man, USC really fell there to UCLA. Bruins really handed it to them. So those two teams are out of this week's top 25. Teams that are looking to maybe get back into the top 25 or get into the top 25 for the first time, we do have North Carolina and Southern Cal, who we just spoke about. Now, Oklahoma State had a great victory this weekend. They're playing well, but just 2 weeks ago they got beat 45-3 down at Central Florida. I don't know how you feel like you should be in the top 25 when just a week ago you got beat 45-3 by a team with a losing record. So they're still looking to get in our view. The Miami Hurricanes fell to Louisville at home. Louisville's a pretty decent team. Miami's on the verge. They're not bad, but they just can't get there. Texas A&M is there. West Virginia had a huge victory. Look, they got a winning record. They're going bowl gaming, but is it enough? UNLV looks really good. Liberty, Southern Methodist, they look pretty good. They beat Memphis, and Memphis is pretty good. They're 8-3, so they're right there. And New Mexico State is also in there. And my goodness, did we see what happened to Auburn? 31-10, they got killed. That was an eye-opening situation there. And the people on the plains, they can't be too happy. But these are the teams that are looking to maybe get in to next week's top 25. Now, as we mentioned, a couple coaches have been let go, but we want to talk about Dino Babers. He is out at Syracuse. There was some flashes of really doing well there for him, and we think he's a good guy. But at the end of the day, Syracuse is pretty mediocre, and their record within the ACC, particularly this year, not good. So, although we like Dino Babers, we certainly understand why they felt it necessary to make a change. So, Dino Babers, he's going to land on a staff somewhere, I can promise you that. Good guy and good football coach, but he is out at Syracuse. Now, we had a very unfortunate injury in Tallahassee, Florida, Saturday night. Wonderful, brilliant young man, quarterback Jordan Travis, goes down with a broken ankle, I believe. I believe that's what I saw there. Just so unfortunate for the Seminoles and for Jordan, because he was a catalyst not only on the field, but off the field in helping Mike Norvell bring the Seminoles back from where they were just a few short years ago to where they are now, which is on the cusp of the college football playoff. So the Seminoles, the nation, really impressed and thankful for Jordan Travis. We're just so sorry that he couldn't finish writing this book like he wanted to. That's a winner of a young man on and off the field. We think he's going to rehabilitate, and he has skills for the next level. I've seen him play in person over a dozen times. This guy can play the game, and he's smart. So we look forward to seeing what he can do in the future, but this is a devastating blow for the Seminoles. They've got a good backup, Tate Rodemaker, good player, very athletic, underestimated in terms of his athleticism, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. But just so sorry that Jordan Travis is unable to finish it with the Seminoles. What a great young man and a heck of a football player. Seminole Nation thankful to have ever had him on the field for FSU. But Jordan Travis is out. Now, interestingly enough, Florida State travels down to Gainesville to play the Florida Gators this weekend, and they are without their quarterback as Graham Mertz. You may recall he's the transfer from Wisconsin. He is out for the rest of the year with an injury. Now, he has really shined for the Gators. I thought he was really good as a freshman at Wisconsin, but he regressed with the Badgers, and he came down here to Florida. He had a good, the Gators aren't where they want to be, but it's not by the fault of Graham Mertz. That guy he's played great this year. Really like what I've seen from him. So, unfortunate he's not going to be there. So we got a game down there in the swamp, the hated rivals, and we got two backup quarterbacks going at it. One team's trying to go to the playoff, and the other team's trying to get to a bowl game. Might be interesting. The swamp is a tough place to play. That I can tell you. Now, we kept hearing that Sam Pittman was out at Arkansas. That turns out not to be the case. Hog Insider, whoever it was telling, they were incorrect because Arkansas is sticking with Sam Pittman. They reaffirmed their commitment to him. Pittman's a good guy, and I know he's a good football coach, but Arkansas has not been performing the way that they want to perform. So Pittman's going to have to get that situation going in a different direction, and I imagine pretty quickly. Also, it turns out that Chip Kelly looks to be at UCLA still. And I mean, I don't know why they were talking about getting rid of him to start with, but you can't get rid of a coach after he bombs Southern California on their own field. You can't do that. He's got a bowl game. He's doing good. So Chip Kelly still at UCLA, at least for the moment. Now, folks, before we get over to our top 25, we want to invite you to follow us on Facebook over at the Color and Pageantry. Now, as we've mentioned before, we're not a huge following over there, not a big channel, but we do post college football news when we see it. We don't sit around all day waiting for news and then immediately post it. We're not that kind of place. But when we see news, we'll throw it up there. And if you like college football, and I know you do if you're watching this, you'll like it. So just go on over there and check us out. We'd love having you if you wanted to join us over there. That's on Facebook at the Color and Pageantry. Now let's get on to the top 25 for week 12. Clemson is 25th with their big victory over North Carolina. Clemson they got pieces. Of course, they got Will Shipley. Their defense is strong, great pair of linebackers. They're right there, and the quarterback is emerging. But Clemson, they've had a rough season, but they're right there. They're a threat to beat a lot of folks. So watch Clemson. They're in the top 25, in our top 25 at 25th. UCLA, the big victory over Southern California. They're a decent football team. They've had some stumbles. The Pac-12 is tough sledding out there, I can promise you. Iowa is 23rd. Now, we don't think Iowa's very good, but listen, folks, they're 9-2. They've won the West. They're right there. They've got Nebraska Friday at noon in Lincoln. They can't score points, so they could lose it. But as it is right now, a 9-2, we just don't feel justified keeping them out of the top 25, although we don't think they're very good. But they do play their type of game. They get you into their type of game. 14-13. They love that. They're not against that at all. That would just horrify Georgia or Florida State or somebody like that. But for Iowa, that's wonderful. But here we are with the Hawkeyes 23rd. Tennessee is 22nd. The goings on with Dolly Parton this weekend. I mean, she couldn't hear anything, so she really had trouble singing Rocky Top, but she's a class act. Great to see her out there in Knoxville. Tennessee scored on the opening possession, and then they absolutely got hammered by Georgia. Utah is 21st. Decent football team. Not quite good enough to get over the edge in the Pac-12. Kansas State is 20th. They're still a contender for the Big 12 championship game. We'll have to see how it shakes out, but they go to Kansas and beat their rival. And Kansas is a decent football team, so Kansas State is right here. They're looking pretty good. North Carolina State comes in at 19th. They're having a good year, awful quietly, I might add. But North Carolina State, they look to be a pretty good football team. They got the Tar Heels this weekend. It's rivalry week. They're going to have to win that game to keep this ranking, but they might could do it. Notre Dame is 18th. We know they're a good football team. They've had a murderous schedule, ups and downs, but Notre Dame, they're pretty good. They've got some solid wins. There's no doubt about that. Tulane is 17th, having a great season. Oregon State is 16th. Oregon State is a good football team. They lost at home to Washington, who's one of the very best football teams. Oregon State, they're a problem for anybody who wants to play them. Not many people do. They come in at 16th. Arizona with Jed Fish. What in the world? They are laying waste to people. They really are looking good. I don't know how many 4-stars they even have on their team, but they are just killing people. Arizona, I don't think anybody wants any part of them. They're moving up the top 25 fast. Arizona, looking good. They got the Sun Devils, who are down, but looking better with Kenny Dillingham. But I don't think the Devils have anything for Arizona. Oklahoma is 14th. They're looking good. They are on their way, I think, to a rematch with Texas in the Big 12 championship game, but they got to win this week. LSU is 13th. Now, this is a team that is dangerous. They can beat a lot of people, but they're having trouble stopping people too, which is kind of surprising with the talent they have on the stop side. They are short some corners due to injury and a fantastic defensive tackle that they have. But they still got a lot of people, but they're having trouble stopping people. But LSU's good. I don't think I'd want to play them. A&M's got them this weekend. Penn State is 12th. Can't beat the big boys. That's about where we're at with Penn State. Looking good, but cannot get past Ohio State and Michigan. Ole Miss, looking at the Egg Bowl on the road, I believe, Thursday night after you eat a bunch of turkey. The Egg Bowl will be on. And Ole Miss could go to 10-2 on the season with only losses to Alabama and Georgia. Louisville in at 10th. They won at Miami against the Hurricanes. They got Kentucky this weekend in an in-state battle. And then they're off to Charlotte to play Florida State in the ACC championship game. This will be Louisville's first appearance in that game. Missouri escaped an evening with the Florida Gators in town. Won on the kick on the last play of the game. They converted a 4th and 17 to get in position to do that. Wow. Didn't expect to see that. But Missouri's got some big wins, so we're going to leave them here. But they're looking for a New Year's Six game if they can close out with a victory over Arkansas. That's a border war. Don't just count that. Don't just put that in the win column. Watch that one. Alabama plays Auburn in the Iron Bowl. Auburn had started to look somewhat decent and went out and met New Mexico State at home and got walloped in an eye-opening game, to say the least. So based upon that, I don't think they got anything going for Alabama. So that could get ugly. Texas is 7th. They're looking really good. The Horns, best season they've had in a long time, got the victory over Alabama, but did lose against Oklahoma in the Red River Rivalry. So Texas right there. Oregon, Bo Nix, 6 touchdown passes in the first half. Oregon looking good. They are on their way to the rematch with Washington, but they've got the Civil War. I think it's the last Civil War due to this conference realignment, which is most unfortunate. We love the Civil War. Always a fantastic game. That's another game with kind of cool-looking uniforms on both teams. The Civil War, I'm going to hate it if that doesn't exist. But it doesn't look like it is. But anyway, we're going to see it this weekend. Oregon and Oregon State. And man, that's going to be a good one. You don't want to miss that. But if Oregon can win it, they're on with Washington. And then the winner of that is going to be having eyes on the playoff, especially if it's Washington who's undefeated. We dropped Florida State to 5. Not because of Jordan Travis's injury, but because the Seminoles have been starting games and actually playing games kind of sluggish lately. They've got some offensive line woes. The defense is not dominating. Not sure what's going on. They've won every game. They beat the crap out of LSU. They won at Clemson. They beat Miami. They're winning games, okay? And they could still win games without Jordan Travis. They just got to do it differently. But Florida State right now, we had to drop them to 5th because Washington with a huge victory at Oregon State. That's impressive. So now we're moving Washington up to 4th. And then we got Ohio State and Michigan, who are playing in Ann Arbor this weekend in the big game there. That's at noon on Fox, and that's a big one. I just don't know what to think there with Michigan, with their issues that they've got going on. I don't know how dialed in they are in terms of the game. I think they're dealing with other things, and of course Harbaugh's not there, but man, Michigan looks really talented. In Ohio State, we know what they can do, what they're capable of, and they're coming off just a dominating victory against Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota's not all that bad. Minnesota's been winning 9 and 10 games a year for half a decade, it seems like. So, yeah, Minnesota's not that bad. So that's going to be a big one. And whoever comes out of there might fall out of the playoff picture. So we'll see how that shakes out. And the Georgia Bulldogs just bombed Tennessee at Rocky Top. They enjoyed listening to Dolly, too, and then proceeded to give up a touchdown and then dominate the rest of the day. The Georgia Bulldogs are the #1 football team in the land until somebody knocks them off, and I'm afraid that's not going to happen this week. Although, hey, you got to hand it to Georgia Tech. They're going bowling, and they've dang gum sure improved. The rambling wreck of Georgia Tech, but I just don't think they got anything for Georgia this week. But it's a night game. I'll be watching. Well, Florida State is on, so I'll be kind of watching that one with my 2 eyes. But I got 1 eye out the corner on Georgia Tech and Georgia, at least for a while till Georgia gets rolling. Georgia Bulldogs, #1 in the land. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our top 25. We also have the teams that fell out of last week's top 25 and some teams that are looking to get in next week's top 25. Drop us some comments. Are you looking at this list? Do you see anybody ranked inaccurately? Or, man, you think somebody should be much higher? Drop us some comments. We would love to hear from you. As we mentioned earlier, if you want to follow us over on Facebook at the Color Pageantry, please check us out and do so. If you like, we do post interesting college football information that we come across over there, and would certainly appreciate it. So no big teams got beat like we expected last week. I thought somebody might fall out of there, but it just didn't happen. But this week is rivalry week. A lot of crazy things could go on. So we're going to have our eyeballs on it, and we'll get together next week and make our new top 25, and we'll talk about these games. And I'm pretty sure a coach is going to get fired. I mean, it's just happening everywhere now. So we might look forward to that. But anyway, appreciate you watching, and we thank you, and we will see you next week. Hope everybody eats a lot of turkey. Have fun. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.